Hi, I'm Paris, and if you're like me, you probably put on about 5 pounds over Thanksgiving, right? And based on previous years, you know it's unlikely that you're going to take that weight off before you add another 5 pounds at Christmas. And some of that will come off, but not all of it, so your net gain for the holidays might be around 5 pounds, which year after year, 10 years out, and you've put on 50 pounds. I know, because it happened to me. I was either overweight or obese for about 20 years of my life until 3 years ago when my health got sufficiently bad that my cardiologist had scheduled me to go into the cath lab, which is where they do the catheterization through your arteries and go in and see if they need to put stents or do other stuff in there. I so did not want to have that happen, and so I had been recommended a book, which I kind of looked at, but didn't really read in depth and didn't take to heart. It's called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Caldwell Esselstyn. And in it, there's a game plan, which is mostly centered on changing your diet, that can prevent and reverse heart disease. I was skeptical at first, but when it came time to actually do some invasive procedures, I said, I'll try anything. Did have to find a different doctor who was willing to give me a little time to work on that. Said, okay, you've got a month, do your thing, come back in. If we're seeing improvement, then we can give you some more time. If we're not seeing an improvement, we are going to have to do these procedures. So I gave it my all, and I did have some good results. Things started to improve, both in my weight, in my lab results, and in how I was feeling. So I had improved enough that my new cardiologist said, okay, we'll give you 3 more months and then we'll see how you're doing. So I stuck with the new eating plan, which was mostly based on cutting out just about all fats and oils and eating unprocessed whole foods. Big change from how I had been living. But I was seeing results, and the only changes I made were the changes to my diet. So that had to be what was causing my improvement. My 3-month checkup was even better. Okay, now you don't have to come back for 6 months. So I was doing pretty well, but I was not going to slip backwards into what I had been doing before that got me in that bad state. And I incorporated some other things because now I saw, hey, look, this actually works. And so here I am 3 years later, still 60 pounds off. And yes, I did put on 5 pounds at Thanksgiving. It was not eating turkey. It was not eating pie. It's because we traveled from home where I have all the foods that I usually eat and went to visit my family in Seattle. And so eating out once or twice a day, I stocked up the little mini fridge in the hotel and used the microwave to make my edamame and had some of the things that I usually have here, but I ate out enough, and eating plant-based. I didn't have any animal products in it. I tried to get low sodium, low fat foods the best I could, but even so, just going that much off of what I usually do in 1 week put 5 pounds on. And I know from 2 Thanksgivings ago, same thing, I put 5 pounds on. The Thanksgiving of last year though, everybody stayed home. I didn't put on any weight. So how am I going to lose the 5 pounds that I put on? Well, it's been, not a week yet since we left Seattle and came back, and already just over 2 pounds have come off. And I haven't done anything except go back to eating the way that I was eating when I was eating. And so long as I eat the healthful foods, eat the whole plant foods, avoid the processed foods, and don't eat late at night. So go back to the schedule and the lifestyle that I have, my weight goes back to where it was. Now, I'm not a doctor, don't have any medical training, so I can only tell you what has worked for me. Might not work for you. Talk to your doctor before making changes, but I can now pretty much distill what has worked for me and got me to stay at this healthy weight into just a few individual points. Number 1, you need a minimum of 12 hours a day of not eating. 12 hours is the minimum amount of time you've got to give your digestive system a chance to rest and your insulin levels to get down and stay at normal to help reduce the insulin resistance. Key word in all of this is insulin resistance. 3 years ago, I didn't even know what that was. Turns out it was what was causing me to have the weight issues, to be pre-diabetic, to have the heart issues, and last year when I got a cancer diagnosis, I'm doing pretty well now, thank you. I believe that was also largely as a result both of having that extra weight for so many years and the insulin resistance that was keeping my immune system from working at 100%, catching those cancer cells when they developed early. If you can give your body an even longer break, I personally do 14 hours a day of not eating. I know a lot of people do 16. That's a little bit much for me, but that is part of why I saw the improvement in my weight and my health, I believe. The second pillar of improved health for me has been taking care of my microbiome. Now, about 10 years ago, I had no idea what a microbiome was, but since I've studied and researched about that, and it's the collection of bacteria and things that live in your gut, and once your body's had a go at absorbing nutrients from the food, then the bottom half of the intestine, that's where all these other guys tend to live, and then they finish digesting and breaking down the food. Now, if you're eating processed food, that's a lot of sugars and oils and things, you will have a different microbiome because you're basically feeding that collection of organisms a different diet. If you feed them a whole food diet with especially lots of fiber, you tend to get more organisms that work for you than work against you. So point number 2 is shovel in that fiber. You get that naturally by eating whole foods, and really that's what the third point is. You gotta cut back, or preferably cut out as much as you possibly can. This is the ultra processed foods, any processed foods at all to the extent that you can. I still eat processed foods, but lightly processed. I eat edamame, which are soybeans still in the pod, but somebody else has already taken care of blanching them and cooking them, and I just take them and heat them up and eat them. I don't actually grow them in the yard, so there's some processing involved, but it's minimal processing. It's not like taking sugar cane and taking out all the fiber and the water and the minerals and just leaving you with that distilled sugar that can do so many unpleasant things to your body, or olives or corn or soybeans. They're all great if you eat them, but if you take them and squish them and get the oil out and eat that in a concentrated form, that's actually a highly processed food. Your body doesn't do well with that. It upsets all sorts of systems, including the signaling to tell you you've had enough to eat. That kind of goes haywire. The signaling to tell your body, are we going to burn these calories coming in, or are we going to store these calories coming in? One means you stay thin, one means you get fat. We are just not designed to be eating all day and night, to have a diet that's not full of fiber. Our ancestors would eat 70 to 120 grams of fiber a day. We're being recommended in the US to try to get 25 or so grams of fiber a day, and most people don't even get that. And these highly processed foods that we're just not designed to deal with, they are so delicious and so tempting. I spent decades enjoying them till I got all the medical news, and then suddenly it wasn't so enjoyable. Making those changes over the course of a year, I saw my weight go from 247 pounds down to the low 190s. But I am confident that going back to eating what I eat now, which is 2,200, 2,400 calories a day of mostly plant-based whole foods, that my Thanksgiving splurge weight will in another week or two come off. You can check back with me and see. Comment down below this video in a few weeks' time and ask me, hey, what's your weight doing now? Now, if you ask me at Christmas, it's going to be back up again. But before Christmas, I'm confident I'll be back down into the 180s. Because you're making these changes, you're going to improve your insulin resistance. And with that, you'll see so many changes. The insulin resistance is tied to all those different conditions, including being overweight. So just attacking the weight by let's exercise the calories off, that rarely works, and it's really hard to keep up. So you can be your lazy self, sitting on the sofa, watching TV, eating snacks, so long as they are healthful whole food snacks and you don't eat them all the way into the night. You give yourself that period of time where you're resting the digestive system and normalizing your insulin levels. For me, that's what made all the difference. I can tell you what supplements I take and why. I can tell you my go-to foods for when I get cravings. If you're interested, please comment and let me know down below this video, and I'll see you maybe in those videos on the next review.
There are so many choices and you don't want to stress. You want your health food at home, receiving only the best. That's what we're here for, we give honest reviews. Paris TX.